Hello, everybody. Hello, YouTube. Hello, art history enthusiasts and visual culture aficionados. It's me again, Miss M, and I'm back with yet another video here for your consideration. I have been busy up the wazoo lately, and it's been a heck of a week. This week, it was a heck of a week last week. It's going to be a heck of a week next week. Ay. But I wanted to do this video very quickly. There's a lot of videos I wanted to do. Tankard sent me like a bunch, or he linked a bunch of articles for me. I think one of which I have here. I'm not sure. We shall see. And I'm going to have to like review these articles and do like a whole separate video about the articles that Tankard sent me, because it has to do with, again, Stephen King. For some reason, I'm focusing on Stephen King lately. I don't know why. I didn't think, if you had asked me a couple months ago whether or not I would be focused on Stephen King in my Shining, in my quest to like understand The Shining, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said no, never. But here I am, And basically, the articles that Tankard linked for me, and that I'm going to do a separate video on, they have to do with whether or not we can, is not Stanley, no, is Stephen King himself an unreliable narrator in his telling and retelling of his stories about Stanley Kubrick and the production of The Shining and why he thinks it's bad, and et cetera, and so on and so forth. I have detected a couple of inconsistencies just from looking at these articles. They're all like pretty long articles, and one of them's behind a paywall, and in the comments under this video, a Tankard very graciously and kindly copies and pastes from this one article that's behind a paywall. So I'm going to get to that in another video today, you guys, and I can't wait to get to it when I have more time and more mental energy. But today I'm doing something a little different. Okay. I think I'm gonna... Tankard, you might already know, because I did discuss it with you. So Tankard is like I tell him everything. I tell him like what I'm working on, what I'm thinking. Like he gets like the first what should I call it? He's the one who gets like the first peek into the madness that is Miss M's like analysis. He and like I bounce ideas off of him, and like we have, seriously, like you guys, I can't say this enough. For him and Exorcist Reviews and Anno Domini and all of you guys, check out all of their channels and watch all of their videos, and several times. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for their videos, because they're awesome. And am I missing anybody? Dr. Luke. Okay, like, please do go and look at all of their stuff. If I forgot you, put it in the comments. Okay, and I will approve the comment. Okay, if you want to shout out your channel, don't worry. But but I'm talking about Tankard now. We are like, especially Tankard. I can't take credit for this. He's the one who's finding all these awesome articles and sources that basically casts a lot of doubt on the stuff that Stephen King has said in regard to The Shining and Stanley Kubrick. Okay? At this point, I think, I didn't like him. Never really liked him. I don't know. And I haven't liked Stephen King for a while. Never read one of his books. Never. But when I heard that he was like all kinds of trouble, and he was talking all that shit about Stanley and The Shining, I said, okay, yeah, you know what? Forget this guy. Like, no. I thought he was annoying and irritating and whatever, and I thought, his complaints like smacked of sour grapes and bitterness and whatever. I just thought he was annoying, kind of like a fly that you can't get rid of. But now I think he's despicable. I really do. I really do. And I mean, once I get into it in the other videos where I read through and I guess like John Madden, the articles that Tankard sent me, you'll see why. I think I'll be able to show you why. And now, for anybody who's wondering, I asked Tankard permission to use the articles in the video, and he said yes. So don't even. Okay, but let me do my little church announcements, and then we can get this show on the road. Returning viewers, thank you for returning. New viewers, thank you for being new. Subscribers, all 415 of you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Like, when I started this channel, I mean, yes, I wanted subscribers. And yes, my goal is to get monetized. I would like to make a little tiny bit of money doing this, just so I can feel a little better about myself. That's it. Just my own vanity and my ego. That's it. That's all. That's the only reason why I want to get monetized. But, but like when I started, I didn't really expect it at all. Like, I mean, I did and I didn't. Like, never thought I would have 415 subscribers, especially the way I started out. So all of you, I appreciate each and every one of you subscribing so very much. I can't even tell you. To know that there are 415 people on this earth that care, that want to see what I'm like, what I'm working on, and what I think about this, that, and the other regarding whatever, like the content of my videos. That means a lot. So thank you. Just thank you. And all you wonderful people that I interact with: Tankard, Exorcist Reviews, Anno Domini, Gershom, Dr. Luke. Am I forgetting somebody? And a lot of you, like, you know, those are the people I interact with, not on a daily basis, but often. And then there's like the people who comment frequently. Thank you so much, all of you. I appreciate all of your comments so much. And just the fact that you're here and that you're thinking, and you're, not my work. No, your work. You're thinking, you're expanding your mind. And if I can even play like a tiny little role in you expanding your mind and learning, that makes me feel so awesome. So awesome. So that's it, I guess, for the church announcements. Also, like a little bit of a disclaimer, like I said in this I think it was this last video, like the late great Joan Rivers would say, I said I think. That's why that means you can't sue me. Okay, this is all opinion based. My opinion of Stephen King is my opinion of Stephen King. Okay, if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Don't matter. But this is just my opinion based on what I've seen, what I've read, what I've thought about and tried to put together in my mind, trying to figure out, whether or not 1 + 1 could ever equal anything other than 2. And if you're a fan of the Housewives, like, if you're not, ask the women in your life, and they'll know who this is, and they'll know like where this is from. Okay, it's just my opinion. Of course, I'm not going to scream like this woman. Her name's Tamara, but it is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, as they say, right? So once again, thank you, Tankard, for all the articles. Thank you, all of you that I've named. Exorcist Reviews, Gershom, Anno Domini, Dr. Luke. All of you for your interactions and your wonderful insights and comments and things. Let me get this show on the road. Okay, it's my opinion, right? It's my damn opinion. I'm going to be coming back to this one a couple of times. Also, the reason why I'm making this video tonight is this is one of the reasons. I was already thinking about making this video, but then this kind of sealed it for me. Like yesterday, 22 hours ago, I put this up that I stole from Halloween Holic on Instagram. The Wendy Red Rum Revlon ad, a taste of fresh color, outrageously unforgettable. Oh my God, whoever put these together? And there's another one of like a baseball card with Wendy and the Louisville Slugger baseball bat. Oh my God, whoever made them, very creative person. And here's Gary. Oh, Gary or Jerry? I don't know. Tell me how to pronounce your name. Gary, Jerry, G. Okay. I always thought this is interesting. I assume it's a him. I'm not wrong, but I always thought that the images of the bloody elevator could make a cool ad for tampons. Okay. Or menstrual pads. Sanitary napkins, Jerry. That's what they're called. Sanitary napkins. Just kidding. No, maybe you were kidding, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't make it any less true. Oh, by the way, I remember you mentioning that this elevator blood could be period blood. Yes. Yes. Okay. And I still believe that. And that's what this video is about. Okay. And Jerry says that was a super interesting point. Yep. I mean, I'm not like, complimenting myself. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm super interesting. No. But like, in one of the articles, again, that Tankard sent me, there is a reference to Hill House, The Haunting of Hill House, and that's the name of the novel, the title of the novel by Shirley Jackson, and the title of the movie is The Haunting. So, and it's referenced in one of the articles Tankard sent me as a very obvious influence on The Shining. Okay? And I had not read that article before. Again, I just had a feeling. I just had a feeling based on the imagery. And not just like the imagery like of the blood in this movie, in The Shining, but like the mental imagery that the visual imagery conjures, and how that is in turn connected to the haunting visually once again. I don't know, I've been having these weird insights. I have this insight about the haunting and The Shining, and it turns out I'm pretty much right. And then Gershom in the Slack discussion board, he put up a quote from the Shining book that basically confirms my suspicions. And now, if you look at my output here, like my suspicions about the Overlook Hotel being where's the damn thing? Being a house of prostitution, okay? This is my part 3 from a year ago. All right? Understanding The Shining part 3, are there some hoes at the Overlook Hotel? Okay? I just say things directly, right? I've never read the novel. And before I found the Schmoop website the other day, I had never even read the Cliff Notes version. I didn't know what was in the novel. I knew it was different from the movie, but I had never read or seen any reference to, the sex trade. In reference of that to the Overlook Hotel or The Shining. No. And I hear that Gershom, thank you for finding that and posting that. He posts this link, not link, but quote. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. I was right. I didn't know I was right. I've never read that horrible book that this wonderful movie is based on. Never. So I'm not like trying to like pat myself on the back. I'm a little creeped out, honestly. Like, how did I know? I saw the signs. That's how I knew. But never mind that. Anyway, so Jerry is talking about menstrual blood and the elevator, and this is connected to the haunting, as Tankard points out in his comments that I will be covering under this video. He copies and pastes the article that's behind a paywall, and the homework that we all need to be doing, watching these movies that he is zeroing in on as very probable inspirations for the way Stanley did The Shining. Okay, I'm going to cover that in another video. But today, I want to cover this. Okay, I want to reveal to you what I think is going on. So please stay tuned till the end. What I think is the origin of the blood that we see in The Shining. Okay, so I've got a couple of article, like, this is a fun one, okay. Stanley Kubrick's 10 favorite horror movies. Okay. I hope I haven't covered this already, but even if I did, it's okay. It's worth repeating. And I think this is one of the articles that Tankard sent me, by what Stanley Kubrick thought of Stephen King's The Shining. Now, this is coming literally from, well, not literally, but you know what I mean, from the horse's mouth. This is not speculation. This is not conjecture. No, this is quotes from Stanley Kubrick himself, as opposed to the lies, okay, that cannot be confirmed. The lies that Stephen King has been telling all these years. And I think they got worse after Stanley Kubrick died, like, because that's just the kind of person, in my opinion, okay, that Stephen King is. Now that his nemesis is dead, he just like got real comfortable, and which is one of the things that I think it makes him despicable. Okay, so I'm gonna look at this a little bit, and we're gonna take a look at his bibliography again. Okay, doesn't make sense. And I want to just really briefly, I found this on Amazon. This is the book that Diane Johnson mentioned in the interview that I cover in this video, Film Analysis, Why Does Stephen King Hate The Shining? This is the book that she was talking about. This is the author that she said was like a dangerous, paranoid person. It's called Eyes Wide Open, Stanley Kubrick by Frederick Raphael. Okay. And I haven't read it. I don't know when or if I will. You can see, I mean, it's not a very expensive book. I'm definitely not going to get the hardcover version. I don't have Kindle. Paperback? I don't know. Used paperback, $3. Oh, I don't know. That's a lot of money. I could buy an egg with $3. So. Oh, for God's sake, y'all. Those eggs are getting really fucking expensive. I was just as a little aside, I've discovered the yellow dragon fruit trend that's been going on, that's been making the rounds on the internet. And long story short, I'm so sorry about this, but if you're constipated, just go and find you a yellow dragon fruit, cut it in half, and get a spoon and eat everything from in there. Okay, eat the whole like contents of that yellow, not the pink one. No, the yellow. It has to be the yellow dragon fruit. Eat that whole thing, and like wait 24 hours, and it'll quote unquote detoxify you. Okay. All right, as we say here in Southern California, it's a cleanse. All right, and I need to try that. And I read that, and I said, "Oh, I need to try that," because like allegedly, it's such an awesome cleanse that you lose like 3 pounds overnight, um, because you basically just have to camp out in the bathroom. All right, I think you know what I mean. And I said, let me find a yellow dragon fruit because this sounds awesome to me. And I found it, and it's $10. One dragon fruit. One yellow dragon fruit. The pink one is cheaper. The pink one is like $7. But the yellow one, $10. And I said, well, you know what? I'm still going to try it. I was at the store today, and I saw a sign that said yellow dragon fruit, but there were none there. That means this trend is serious. When I couldn't find a yellow dragon fruit at the store, that means like all the women especially all the women in Southern California like have bought up all the yellow dragon fruits because they all want to use them to lose 3 pounds overnight. So when I said $3, like, I could buy an egg with $3. But anyway, never mind that. This is the one that Diane Johnson said he's like paranoid and dangerous and whatever. And this is his like book about his a memoir of Stanley Kubrick and Eyes Wide Shut. That's what it says here. Eyes Wide Open is the name of the book, and it was published in 1999, same year of Stanley's death. Okay, at least this guy published it before Stanley died and not after. I mean, I guess I'll give him that. But this is, I didn't read it, but I read some of these reviews down here. So this one is from somebody who calls themselves Ned Flanders. And it said, pathetic, gives it 1 star. And I'll read this to you. I've never written a review for anything before, but felt compelled to after coming across this little ditty while researching for books on Stanley Kubrick, which dredged up the painful experience of actually reading this book. It's a little hard to understand why it was published. Its main thesis is that Stanley Kubrick, despite his accolades, was in fact an overrated buffoon, while Frederick Raphael, despite his lack of accolades, is infinitely more insightful, intelligent, and artistic. Okay. This Raphael person sounds awesome, right? The book, of course, was written by Mr. Raphael himself, as no one else has ever thought he deserved to be the subject of anything. Mr. Raphael was not only pathetic, but shameless in his attempts to attract attention by linking himself to Mr. Kubrick. If you are interested in Stanley Kubrick rather than Mr. Raphael, I would suggest that you avoid this book at all costs. If you are interested in experiencing some type of pathological jealousy in great detail, then this book is for you. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and agree with Ned. Even though I haven't read the book myself. Why? Because it seems like Stanley either attracts or chooses these kind of people to, use or adapt their work or as some role. They play some role in the production of whatever movie he was working on at the time. In The Shining's case, it was Stephen King. In Eyes Wide Shut's case, it's obviously this Frederick Raphael guy. In the Full Metal Jacket, seems to have been Gustav Hasford. He seems to have been kind of a loose cannon. I don't know. But I wanted to read that to you, get that out the way, because I was intrigued by what Diane said in her... Diane Johnson, the co-writer of the script for The Shining, what she said about these books, okay? What else do I have here? Oh, yes, we're going to talk about Eraserhead a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit in this video. So let me get on with it, okay? I want to show you some of Stanley's. Not some of. According to Screen Rant, this is their claim that these are Stanley Kubrick's 10 favorite horror movies. Okay? And you already see a werewolf and Leatherface. So, let's go. 10 of them there are. First one is The Phantom Carriage. Okay? Wait a minute. Let me go ahead and read this a little bit. Stanley Kubrick is often hailed as one of the all-time master film directors, a fastidious perfectionist, excuse me, whose films continue to inspire and influence new generations of filmmakers. Of course, Kubrick's adaptation of Stephen King's The Shining is considered one of the most terrifying horror movies on record. But the director was also inspired by fellow horror films and filmmakers working at the top of their game. So here we go. Thanks to a BFI retrospective in collaboration with Criterion, Stanley Kubrick's favorite movies have been named. It's no surprise that he named some of the scariest horror movies ever made, but there are a few others that many have never heard of. Okay. First one here, The Phantom Carriage from 1921. Released in 1921. Let me just enlarge this so it's a little easier for me to read. Released in 1921, The Phantom Carriage is a phantasmagoric Swedish ghost story directed by Victor Sjöström. The plot follows a drunken man on New Year's Eve who hitches a ride in a spectral horse carriage which ferries the souls of the dead. The silent film is all about evoking a moody atmosphere with its brilliant use of light and shadow. Yeah. Aside from the Swedish lore from which the story derives, Kubrick must have felt pretty strongly about the film, considering The Shining is, on the surface, also about an alcohol. This is interesting. Screen Rant says on the surface, so they know something's up. Oh, so okay. Let me just keep going. The Shining is on the surface also about an alcoholic dealing with ghosts. Below the surface, though, is where some of the best Shining fan theories come to light. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this thing. Okay, so that's the first one, The Phantom Carriage. The second one is Rosemary's Baby. This is for me. I know Rosemary's Baby is a good movie, but I never thought it would be on like um, Stanley Kubrick's like top 10. I don't know why. I just didn't. From a horse carriage to a creepy baby carriage, like many, Kubrick also greatly admired Rosemary's Baby, one of the most unnerving tales of devil worship and satanic ritual sacrifice. The story follows a young couple who moves into a new apartment in New York, only to be slowly and systematically groomed by their evil neighbors to give birth to Satan's spawn. Okay, so here's Mia Farrow in this movie, and she's wearing the Virgin Mary blue color, which makes me think about Wendy, and I keep saying that blue is Wendy's color in The Shining. Oh boy. Okay, let's keep it moving. Okay, it's easy to see a thematic connection between Rosemary's Baby and Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut, especially how the disturbing rape scene in the former sort of mirrors the masked orgy in the latter. Both deal with power, degradation, sexual desire, and the horrific consequences. This is a really interesting observation, and something that I'm going to keep in mind from now on, especially when I finally get around to doing a video about Eyes Wide Shut. My goodness. I wish I was a full-time YouTuber. But no, I have to go and get a job. Why? Oof. Never mind. Okay. The Exorcist. Okay. The Exorcist, 1973. And this shot from the movie, Exorcist Reviews, I hope you're listening. Regan, and you can see, like, whatever is possessing her, whether it's Pazuzu or whatever else, is kind of taking hold. And then there's this lace behind her. Wow. Is this about storytelling? Is that what the lace is? Mr. Friedkin? I don't know. Anyway, according to Insider, Warner Brothers offered Kubrick the chance to direct The Exorcist. He turned the gig down, opening the door for the great William Friedkin to deliver arguably the scariest horror movie ever made. Clearly, with no hard feelings, Kubrick named the film among his favorites. Okay, so this is straight from Kubrick. This is not like people saying that these are his favorite films. No, this is Kubrick saying these were his favorite films. Interesting. And I'll get into this a little, Warner Brothers and whatever later, okay? And especially in relation to Stephen King. Okay, so stick around. Winner of 2 Oscars, The Exorcist currently ranks number 222 on IMDb's top 250, cementing its lasting legacy as one of the most venerated horror films of all time. What makes the horror resonate so deeply is the way in which the story begins as a compelling, straightforward drama, and it does, allowing the true terror to fester in the same way Kubrick does with The Shining. Interesting, so interesting. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Kubrick also gives some love to Tobe Hooper's shoestring salvo of maniacal murder in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The director tended to adore high production value and elegant European art house productions, allegedly. So to see him favor such a grimy, low-budget DIY terror is a real treat. Interesting. The film follows a quintet of teens traveling through Texas, only to stop near a rural farmhouse inhabited by Leatherface, a deranged maniac who wields a chainsaw and sports human faces for a mask. No film of Kubrick's resembles the fiendish ferocity of TCM, which makes his admiration even more of an outlier on this list and interesting. Okay, all right, cool. I'm not really surprised by this. I'm more surprised that I'm more surprised by Rosemary's Baby than Texas Chainsaw because, they make this claim that he was more into elegant movies. No, he was into, like, it seems to me anyway, in in my opinion, it seems to me that he was more into, like, really good artistry and really good planning and whatever on the part of the filmmaker, rather than glitz or glamour. So that's just my opinion. The next one is The Car That Ate Paris from 1974. Okay. While Kubrick also really loved Picnic at Hanging Rock, Peter Weir's previous film, The Car That Ate Paris, is more of an overt horror movie, with a darkly comedic bent. The story is set in Paris, Australia, where the townsfolk deliberately cause grisly car accidents so they can keep their economy going by repairing the wreckages. According to BFI, via The Sound of Pictures by Andrew Ford, Kubrick actually suggested Weir to Warner Brothers as a candidate to direct Salem's Lot. Oh boy. Based on his love of the two aforesaid films. Ironically, Salem's Lot went on to be helmed by Tobe Hooper. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Everything seems to be connected in this universe. Right? Eraserhead. Here it is. Salem's Lot. These directors, Tobe Hooper, Andrew Ford, like David. It's weird. It's just weird. It's just weird. The next one is Eraserhead from 1977. Kubrick constantly named David Lynch's directorial debut, Eraserhead, as his favorite movie at the time of its release, and Lynch has even recounted a great anecdote about the fact. Prior to making The Shining, Kubrick implored his cast and crew to watch Eraserhead and draw inspiration from David Lynch's surreal directorial style. To me, this is incredibly interesting. As such, the scene in The Shining where Jack Nicholson, stumbles backward out of room 237 as the bathtub hag closes in on him is very redolent of the scene in Eraserhead where the title character, Jack Nance, also walks in reverse back into the hall. Now, I think that the name of the actor who played, Henry Spencer, if I'm not mistaken, in Eraserhead. Okay, so the actor's name was Jack. Is this yet another, naming the character who's originally named John in the novel, naming him Jack? By naming him Jack, is that yet another nod to David Lynch and Eraserhead, naming Jack Torrance, maybe after the actor that played Henry in Eraserhead? I don't know. I just don't know, but it's something to think about. American Werewolf in London. I've heard, like, a lot of people praise this movie. The second and final horror comedy to make Kubrick's grade is the John Landis classic American Werewolf in London. Part fish-out-of-water comedy and part gory animalistic body horror. The fusion of laughter and lethality here is second to none. The story tracks two young American tourists in London who are accosted by a vicious werewolf that none of the locals will acknowledge as real. The werewolf transformation is arguably the best of its kind, thanks to Rick Baker, who won the very first official Oscar for Best Makeup. Okay. Now we have this one, The Company of Wolves. Again with the wolves. Interesting. Neil Jordan's dreamy adult retelling of the Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale as a metaphor for a woman's pubescent awakening. Kubrick felt strongly about the underrated horror film The Company of Wolves. Oddly enough, it's the second consecutive werewolf movie on his compilation in terms of chronology. In fact, Kubrick loved the production design of the film so much Oh, for goodness sake, who wrote this? I guess he immediately something. It's department head Anton First to serve the same role on his next movie, Full Metal Jacket. He immediately employed. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, never mind. Um, so we all need to watch all of these movies, plus all the ones that Tankard is telling us to watch. Whew. Okay, the next one is The Vanishing. The Vanishing, according to Kubrick's longtime friend and assistant Jan Harlan, via BFI, the master filmmaker watched the 1988 Dutch horror film The Vanishing 3 times and told director George Sluzier it was the most horrifying movie I've ever seen. When the director asked Kubrick if he thought it was scarier than The Shining, he said it was. This is interesting. One of the best kidnapping thrillers ever made. The Vanishing follows a couple on vacation who stop for gas when the woman suddenly disappears without a trace. The husband is left searching for answers. 3 years later, he receives cryptic letters from his wife's abductor, ultimately learning she has been buried alive. Okay. Interesting. Really, really interesting. And I think this is the final entry on this list, The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. The late, great Jonathan Demme earned the respect of Kubrick's filmmaking acumen when the master director named The Silence of the Lambs among his favorite movies. Indeed, winner of the Big Five Academy Awards, the 1991 Best Picture transcends genre to become an all-time great character study of both Clarice Starling, Jodie Foster, and Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins. It's also downright mortifying. As fans can see, despite his isolated and detached nature, Kubrick was just as big a cinephile as his audiences and was unafraid to draw inspiration from the movies that impacted his life. His eclectic taste in high and lowbrow horror certainly paid dividends in The Shining. So basically, Tankard, you are absolutely right. He was borrowing and citing and being inspired by a bunch of movies. So this is interesting. Silence of the Lambs, I think he might have possibly enjoyed this movie so much because the real hero of the movie is this guy right here. Okay? Hannibal Lecter is not a villain. He never was. We just weren't paying attention. Hannibal Lecter is the hero. In Silence of the Lambs, yes, he kills people. But for all intents and purposes, or for the most part, he only kills bad people. I don't think he doesn't mess with like just ordinary people living their lives and not bothering anybody. No, he kills assholes. Okay, that's who Hannibal Lecter kills. So, so that's my opinion. So anyway, yeah, Hamra, yeah, thank you. Anyway, so that's that. I thought this was the cutest article, and I just wanted to share it with you guys so much. It's going to be in the description, okay? So enjoy that. This next one that I want to share with you, I think Tankard sent this to me. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to give him credit because I don't think I would have been aware of it if it weren't for him either way. Right. So what Stanley Kubrick thought of of Stephen King's The Shining. And I read through this, and what really stuck out to me in this article was the language that Kubrick used. And yes, we've got direct quotes from Kubrick here. Okay? Now I'm not going to concentrate on what old what's-his-face says. I want to concentrate on what Stanley says. Now, and this is the point. I'm not going to even talk about, well, okay, a little bit before the pivot, as they call it here. As the article says here, the exact reasons for King's antipathy. Oh, that's a nice word, y'all. You could have used the real word. It's hate. Okay, it's not antipathy. It's hate. It's just flat out raging, toxic hate that's coming from Stephen King regarding this movie and Stanley Kubrick. Anyway, the exact reasons for King's antipathy toward his cinematic adapter go beyond film criticism. It's also personal. Okay. The book, after all, was inspired by the author's own bottoming out period when he was battling alcoholism and struggling to maintain control of his family, allegedly. I don't believe a word this man says anymore. I don't believe one word that Stephen King says anymore. To me, he's a proven liar. It was his third novel and the second to be adapted to the second, following 1976's Carrie. That's interesting, because when you look at his bibliography, Salem's Lot was published after Carrie, but before The Shining. Mm. Mm-mm. And Kubrick had, as I think you already know this, Tankard, had a hand in choosing the director for Salem's Lot. Okay. Anyway, let me keep going. It was his third novel and the second to be adapted to the screen following 1976's Carrie. Okay. That's interesting. That's very interesting to me. For that film, he was paid the lump sum of $2,500 for the rights and had no further involvement. With The Shining, however, he'd written a script which Kubrick rejected without even reading it. Again, we don't know whether or not this is true. This is King's claim. And King is hell-bent on making Stanley Kubrick, just like this jerk over here, Frederick Raphael. Stephen King is hell-bent on making Stanley Kubrick sound like the most unhinged lunatic you've ever heard of in your life. That is suspicious. That's very suspicious. He'd written a script, which Kubrick rejected, allegedly, without even reading it, preferring instead to co-write his own with Diane Johnson. Okay. The pair produced a work which is astonishingly faithful to the text, one scene and then entirely unmoored from it the next, often in ways King found to be illogical. Oh, I'm not concerned about what he thinks is and ain't illogical. He's not a good source for anything. Anyway, then to make matters worse, Kubrick would call King at ungodly hours during production to quiz him about the nature of death and whether he believed in God. Okay, if this is King's claim, he's contradicting himself, because should I go over there? Yeah, I should. Watch this. Stephen King remembers Stanley Kubrick. I saw it as one of my suggested videos, and I said, do I really want to listen to this awful person talk? And I say yes, in the interest of research, I do. And he tells a story about precisely this. Yeah, Kubrick calling him at ungodly hours during production to quiz him about the nature of death and whether he believed in God. Okay, listen. Watch this over here and then read that again. I'm going to put it in the description. Let me know if you notice any discrepancies. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to have let you see it and think about it for yourself. This makes it sound like King is claiming, which I believe he is, that Stanley would just call him out of the clear blue sky at, I guess it says here, ungodly hours, asking him crazy questions, and that this happened a lot. This happened like way more than once. Okay, all right. Like I said, watch this video over here and then compare it with this. Let me know whether or not I've lost my mind. Okay. King has been dining out on these stories at book signings for years and does not hesitate to add Jack Nicholson is miscast and Shelley Duvall's helpless housewife character is the creation of a misogynist to his line of criticism. Yeah, I'm not really concerned with Stephen King's opinion of what is and what ain't misogyny either. This man is not just a liar, I think he's a terrible hypocrite, but that's just me. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, now begins the pivot. But what about Kubrick? King had been making noise about his distaste for the film since the moment it came out. But how did Kubrick feel about the novel? Now, listen. I'm going to read this to you. I'm going to try and keep this short because there's like a couple more things I want to get to. it says here that Stanley Kubrick, this is in quotes, Stanley Kubrick is quoted as saying, "It is the only thing which was ever sent to me that I found good or that I liked." Okay, now, I'm immediately zeroing in on this part here. He said sent to me. He didn't seek this out. This was sent to him. Okay? He was not a fan of this guy. No. Somebody sent him not Carrie, The Shining. He sent it to him. This was the second of this person's books that was converted into a movie, and it was sent to Stephen King. Okay? Okay? Please concentrate on that. Please, make note of that. It was sent to him. He didn't go looking for it. It's not like he read it and thought it was good. No. It was sent to him. And he's saying it's the only thing which was ever sent to me that I found good or that I liked. I don't think he liked it or thought it was good. I really don't. I really don't. I think he's saying that because he's basically forced to. Because more or less, I think that, I could be wrong about this, but yeah, Stanley Kubrick was Stanley Kubrick. But he was working, for Warner Brothers. Okay? And you'll see more of why I'm mentioning that later, okay? He was working for Warner Brothers, so he's not going to badmouth the people who sent him what they sent him. I don't believe that he had the liberty to just choose whatever he wanted to as far as what novels to adapt. I think he had how do I say this? I think that he had parameters within which he was obligated to work as a film director that he couldn't step out of. That's what I believe, but you'll see why I believe that in a minute. How did he first learn of the book, The Shining? How did Stanley Kubrick first learn of The Shining? Well, the novel, which was published in 1977, was sent to Kubrick, here it is, by John Calley, the same Warner Brothers executive responsible for the studio's involvement with The Exorcist. Okay. To that point, Kubrick had never written an original screenplay himself. He preferred the art of adaptation because you can remember what you felt about the story the first time you read it, which serves as a very useful yardstick on making the decisions that you have to make which serves as a very useful yardstick on making the decisions that you have to make directing the film. Okay. Listen. It says right here, John Calley, the same Warner Brothers executive responsible for the studio's involvement with The Exorcist, is the one who sent it to Kubrick. Okay? And he probably had no choice but to make this book into a movie. That's my gut. That's what it's telling me. That's what it told me about, the Overlook Hotel being a brothel. That's what it told me about The Haunting and its connection to The Shining. That's what it's telling me about this. I don't think that he was at liberty to just choose whatever he wanted to work on. However, he still made it something that he wanted to work on. Okay? As Diane said in the interview that I featured, that I featured in this video, she said that I think maybe even before he even chose the book, he was already working on the set design, the casting, all of that, and yeah, he was building the sets, I think, while the screenplay was being written in 1977. Okay, so he already knew what kind of movie he wanted to make, and what he was going to use as the outline or whatever for the plot or what have you, that was like immaterial. He could have used any book. It just happened to be The Shining, because according to this, it looks like it was foisted upon him by Warner Brothers. Okay? That's my feeling right now. He didn't choose this because, like, Stephen King is an awesome writer. I think he chose it because Warner Brothers made him choose it, and Warner Brothers made him choose it because Stephen King, or, the entity that we call Stephen King, yeah, the artist or the entity known as Stephen King, and whoever it is that was propelling his career, also, like, was in some kind of control as to whether or not books get made into movies, and which books got made into movies. Like I said in my prior video, like, what deal with the devil did Stephen King sign to have, like, a huge majority, a huge number of his novels, like, get made into movies? His first published novel, Carrie, 1974. Boom, it became a movie. It was released 2 years later as a movie, directed by Brian De Palma in 1976. Like, seriously? And it was his first published novel. And before that, he had been writing, this is his short fiction bibliography. Like, before 1974, he was writing short stories for, like, skin mags. Basically, like, real highbrow stuff, Oh, and his novel that, like, busted him into stardom, like, if his wife hadn't found those 3 pieces of paper in the trash, like, we wouldn't know who he is. Allegedly, that's the myth. That's the legend, myth, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I don't think that Stanley Kubrick was at liberty to choose the novel. I think somebody told him what to choose, or basically told him, make this, and, like, that's that. And he had to. And that's why he made The Shining so famous with his movie. And Stephen King can't just be grateful. No. He's still bitching about it to this day. Okay. This is interesting. Why he wanted to adapt it. Most things I read, this is Stanley talking, most things I read with the feeling that after a certain number of pages I'm going to put it down and think that I'm not going to waste my time. The Shining I found very compulsive reading, and I thought the plot, ideas, and structure were much more imaginative than anything I've ever read in the genre. Oh boy. It seemed to me one could make a wonderful movie out of it. Listen, if I'm right about, like, he really didn't have any choice, and, like, if you look at this answer with that in mind, he's basically, this is, like, the most masterful backhanded compliment I've ever seen in my life. He found it very compulsive reading. Okay. And he thought the plot, ideas, and structure were much more imaginative than anything he'd ever read in the genre, which could be interpreted as him saying, I never saw, I never read a worse book in my life. I never read the imaginative. Like, come on, that can mean something other than a compliment. I don't think he liked the book. I really don't. Again, my gut is telling me that. I don't know why. Had he read anything else by Stephen King before? And we're gonna get to this in a minute, you guys. No, he says. I had seen Carrie, the film, but I hadn't read any of his novels. Okay. What did he like best about King's style? I would say this is Stanley talking, I would say King's great ability is in plot construction. Okay. And that's again, my theory is that Stephen King doesn't write his own books. Or if he does anything, he has very little involvement in the books that end up having his name on them. That's my opinion. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. What did he like least? Okay. He doesn't seem to take great care in writing. I mean, the writing seems like he writes it once, reads it, maybe writes it again, and sends it off to the publisher. He seems mostly concerned with invention, which I think he's very about. Ouch. Yeah, that's an ouch. Which, again, this could be interpreted as what I just said. He doesn't really write his own books. He definitely doesn't proofread or like edit, which tells me, yeah, why wouldn't he do that? Why wouldn't he edit and then edit again and then edit again? I mean, from what I understand, that's a huge part of the writing process. The editing is much more time consuming than the writing itself. But I don't know, y'all tell me. Okay, so he's basically saying this guy isn't really a writer. I really believe that. Okay? This is really interesting. Okay? Ha 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 ha. And he's now. Contrary to legend, Kubrick was not seeking out a horror project. Yeah, one was foisted upon him. Continuing his habit of jumping from genre to genre, horror wasn't actually on his mind as the next genre to conquer. The Shining was simply sent to him and he responded to it. As for Diane Johnson, she was a novelist he admired. Once he learned she actually taught a course on the Gothic novel at Berkeley, he decided she'd be the perfect collaborator, even though she'd never written a script before. Okay. This quote is interesting. I think in the novel, King tries to put in too much of what I would call pseudo-character and pseudo-psychological clues. Ooh, boy. But certainly the essence of the character of Jack, such as it is, that he puts in the novel, was retained. Yeah. Oh my. The only change is we made Wendy perhaps more believable as a mother and a wife. I would say the psychological dynamics of the story, even in the novel, are not really changed. The characters become more clear, less cluttered. That's it, less cluttered. Better than simplified. Listen. I'm going to read this again. Stanley says, with regard to the Jack character in the novel as opposed to the film, he says, the essence of the character of Jack, such as it is, that he puts in the novel, was retained. I know that doesn't sound like much. I know that doesn't sound like a read or shade or an insult of any kind. Because if the Jack character or the John character in the book is based, it's autobiographical. It's based on Stephen King himself. And Kubrick is telling us that this essence of the character is retained in the movie. And that character is universally reviled as just a dangerous psychopath. I think you can figure out what I'm saying here. Okay? My goodness. This is an interesting part too. For example, King's novel devotes a lot of time to charting Jack, Wendy, and Danny's rocky recovery, with the family doing its best to move past an abusive and alcoholic past, and Jack reflecting on his own traumatic upbringing. Kubrick saw no need to spell any of that out for the audience. No, he didn't. In the film, a few clues almost do the same thing. When Wendy tells the doctor about how Jack broke Danny's arm, I thought it was collarbone or shoulder, I don't know, but see what I mean? You can tell she's putting a very good face on the way she tells it, but you realize that something horrible must have happened. Okay. Or, for instance, when Ullman, the manager, asks Jack, how would your wife and son like it? And you see a look in his eyes, meaning he thinks, what an irrelevant question that is. And then he smiles and just says, they'll love it. I think there are lots of little subtle points that give you, at least subconsciously, the same awareness that King works so hard to put in. It's an irrelevant question because, Jack really needs that job. Not necessarily. Again, Stanley is doing something in this movie. He's like, this is a tightrope walk. that he's doing with the way he's directing this movie and the layer cake style that he's using. Absolutely mesmerizing. Anyway, let's see. I'm just looking at something really quickly here. Oh, this, I need to read this to you. About the shift, okay? The shift. The most major shift in his mind was the ending. Okay. The most major shift is really the last 30 minutes of the film, because King's climax really only consisted of Jack confronting Danny, and Danny saying something like, "You're not my father." And then Jack turns and goes down to the boiler room and the hotel blows up. The most important thing Diane Johnson and I did was to change the ending to shift the emphasis. Okay. Did you see this? It says, "You're not my father." I mean, are we watching Maury Povich? Or, a movie directed by Stanley Kubrick? I don't know what context this is said in the movie. Or the book, not the movie, the book. But it's interesting. Maybe, like, something is taken over John in the movie, and, like, Danny is reacting to that entity, whatever it is. But, like, the way Stanley says it, and he, like, puts emphasis on Danny saying to the John character in the novel, "You're not my father." Oh, my. To me, that sounds like, that sounds like some tea. I don't know about y'all, but let me know in the comments. Yeah, so Stephen King has nothing but bad things to say. And Stanley Kubrick did the gentlemanly thing. And even though, in my opinion, based on my gut intuition, like, The Shining was just forced upon him by Warner Brothers, he's still not talking shit. He could. He totally could. And he definitely, I mean, maybe he couldn't have done it in the 70s or 80s, but maybe he could have said something in the 90s. No, he didn't. Just kept his mouth shut, did his job, left it alone, I am almost done with this. I am going to finish this up and, like, give you the big reveal pretty soon. So stay tuned. And I'll do my little coffee break and I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, I'm back and we are in the home stretch. Okay. So what I wanted to kind of emphasize in this last portion of this video is, again, the improbability of this Stephen King's writing career. This doesn't make sense. Look at all these. And most of these, a lot of them, were converted into movies or TV shows or something to that effect. His first novel was published in 1974, okay? His first novel was published in 1974. It immediately was converted into a movie. A good movie by Brian De Palma. Okay, the director was Brian De Palma. And Salem's Lot, published in 1975, obviously became a movie after The Shining. But so first, come on. This just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. The movie, Carrie, it doesn't make sense. But it does have a connection to The Shining. In a little bit of a way. Now, Eraserhead, we all know that Kubrick told his cast, had them all watch the Eraserhead. To prepare for The Shining. Okay? Now, the connection between The Shining and Carrie is partially through Eraserhead. All right, so Eraserhead, I think I already covered this in the video where I talked about David Lynch and Eraserhead and like how long it took him to make it and all of that. What I don't know if I covered, maybe I did, was that Eraserhead was helped. The movie, the production, the creation of the movie was helped by a man named Jack Fisk. Okay? This is a childhood friend of David Lynch's. All right, and David Lynch, this friend of his, Fisk, it says right here, Eraserhead was produced with the assistance of the American Film Institute, AFI, during Lynch's time studying there. It nonetheless spent several years in principal photography because of funding difficulties. Donations from Fisk and his wife, Sissy Spacek, kept production afloat. Okay. Sissy Spacek starred in Carrie. I mean, we know this, right? We just know this. Where else is Sissy Spacek mentioned here? I think. Oh, where is it? Hold on, let me do a Control F. Yeah, there she is. There's the first mention of Spacek in the Eraserhead Wikipedia article, and the second mention is the filming, buoyed with regular donations from Lynch's childhood friend Jack Fisk and Fisk's wife Sissy Spacek. Production continued for several years. So if it wasn't, it's sounding like possibly if it wasn't for Fisk and Sissy Spacek, there would be no Eraserhead. Okay. Now, with all that being said, all right, that's all I'm going to mention about Eraserhead in this video. But with all that being said, let's go to this is Stephen King's Wikipedia page, and I'm going to cover this part: Carrie and Aftermath. In 1973, King's novel Carrie was accepted by publishing house Doubleday. It was King's fourth novel. Fourth? Oh, never mind. It was King's fourth novel, but the first to be published. Okay. He wrote it on his wife Tabitha's portable typewriter. It began as a short story intended for, again, the Skin Mag Cavalier. But King tossed the first 3 pages in the garbage can. 3 pages? Like he gave up after 3 pages? Really? And again, like, why wasn't he making notes? Where were his notes? They don't mention his notes or his outline or nothing. He just starts typing, and then 3 pages later he doesn't like it and throws it in the garbage can. Is that really how one writes and plans a story? That, I don't know. That sounds a little odd to me, but whatever. Tabitha recovered the pages and encouraged him to finish the story, saying she would help him with the female perspective. Okay. He followed her advice and expanded it into a novel. Female perspective. Really? I mean, you said it yourself, Gary. It would be a cool ad. The images of the bloody elevator would make a cool ad for tampons or menstrual pads. Yep. Female perspective. Oh my God. Boy, oh boy. He said, I persisted because I was dry and had no better ideas. My considered option was that I had written the world's all-time loser. He's talking about the Carrie character. He calls that character, he had written the world's all-time loser. Again, this is the person who's calling Stanley Kubrick a misogynist. Okay. She's not a loser. She's a victim of, if we're going to go by the story and the plot, at least in the movie. I haven't read the book, but the movie, like, Carrie is a victim of her upbringing, her crazy mother, the bullies at the school. Like, everybody has failed her. She has nowhere to go for help. And that makes her a loser, Really, Stephen? Really? Shame on you. According to The Guardian, Carrie is the story of Carrie White, a high school student with latent and then, as the novel progresses, developing telekinetic powers. It's brutal in places, affecting in others. Carrie's relationship with her almost hysterically religious mother being a particularly damaged one, and gory in even more. Almost. I mean, they saw that movie, and they saw that character, the mother character, and they said almost hysterically religious. Almost. I just can't get over this. What's wrong with these people? No, she's not almost hysterical. I mean, she's not almost. No, she's slap up the wall, batshit crazy. All right, there's something wrong with that woman. The mother character in Carrie. And they're using the word hysterically because, well, this movie's about the female perspective, female problems, right? When Carrie was chosen for publication, King's phone was out of service. Out of service? Wait a minute, I thought that he lived in a trailer that had a laundry room, but no phone. Now it's out of service. See what I mean? This man just lies and lies and lies, and then just when you think he's done lying, he lies some more. Doubleday editor William Thompson, who became King's close friend, sent a telegram to King's house in late March or early April 1973, which read, Carrie officially a Doubleday book, $2,500 advance against royalties. Congrats, kid. The future lies ahead. Bill. Wow. That tells me a lot. It probably tells you a lot too. But I'm just going to keep going. King said he bought a new Ford Pinto with the advance. Oh, are you serious? On May 13, 1973, New American Library bought the paperback rights for $400,000, which, in accordance with King's contract with Doubleday, was split between them. Okay. In 1973, $200,000 was a lot of money. Okay? A lot of money. A lot of money. Like rents were like $100 a month. So that should give you some perspective, right? Carrie set King's career in motion and became a significant novel in the horror genre. In 1976, it was made into a successful horror film. Uh-huh. I'm just looking at how much more of this I should read. I think that's about it. But like, Carrie is the movie that was based on the book, or was adapted from the book, that basically launched Stephen King's career as this superstar novelist, like straight from the gate. He didn't have to wait for fame. He really didn't. He was very young, right? He didn't like toil for years and years and years writing. He was still a pretty darn young man in 1974. Wait, when was his birthday? Wait, it was 74. Minus 47. What was he, 27? Wait a minute. 74. Yeah, he was 27 years old. Yeah, he had to wait a long time for fame. Oh, the nerve. The nerve of making him sound like this rags to riches story, and he makes it sound like I mean, again, that's probably yet another example of his lying, making it sound like he was living below the poverty line, and then all of a sudden fame came knocking because he was just such an amazing writer. Oh, the bullshit. Oh, the lies. I just can't. I really just can't. And this ridiculous story about the first 3 pages, and oh, Jesus. Okay, well, anyway, let me keep it going. So this is the novel, right? And you can read the plot. Oh, it's quite long. Okay. So it sounds a lot like the movie. Okay, it seems like Brian De Palma stayed true to the novel. I can't be sure about that, but it just seems that way to me. So correct me if I'm wrong, if you've like experienced both the novel and the movie. Um, so Carrie, again, he calls this girl a complete loser, even though in her life she's just a victim of her circumstances, her upbringing, the kids at school. Like everything is set against Carrie for some reason, right? For some reason. I just don't know. I just don't know. Um, I just don't know. But you can read this plot for yourself, okay? Um, this doesn't make sense. I mean, the movie, amazing. The book, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, did he really write this thing? I'm wondering if it was him or Tabitha. Personally, I'm really having doubts. Now I'm gonna go to um the Wikipedia page for the movie. Here it is. Carrie is a 1976 American supernatural horror film directed by Brian De Palma from a screenplay written by, well, not Stephen King, Lawrence D. Cohen, adapted from Stephen King's 1974 epistolary novel of the same name. Encore. The film stars Sissy Spacek as Carrie White, a shy 16-year-old who is consistently mocked and bullied at school. The film also features Piper Laurie, Amy Irving, who went on to marry Steven Spielberg, oddly enough. Tankard. The connections are getting deeper and deeper. Nancy Ellen, Betty Buckley, John Travolta, whatever. It is the first in the Carrie. It is the first film in the Carrie franchise. The film is based on King's first published novel. De Palma was intrigued by the story and pushed for the studio to direct it, while Spacek was encouraged by her husband to audition. It is the first of more than 100 film and television productions adapted from or based on the published works of King. More than 100. Oh my, so there's a link here. This is a list of media based on works by American author Stephen King. More than 100, you guys. Oh my God. Okay. And not only, look at this, theatrically released on November 3rd, 1978 by United Artists, Carrie became critically and commercially successful, grossing over $33.8 million against its $1.8 million budget. It received 2 nominations at the 49th Academy Awards, Best Actress for Spacek and Best Supporting Actress for Laurie. Critics and audience members alike widely cite it as the best adaptation of the novel amongst the numerous films and television shows based on the character, as well as one of the best films based on King's publications. Okay, listen. I think we can thank Lawrence D. Cohen for that, not Stephen King. 'Cause am I gonna have to research this? Lord. It seems to me, anyway, that like these directors who make movies based on his books, like, don't let him anywhere near the screenplay. It just seems that way to me. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 2 instances don't necessarily indicate a pattern, but ooh, Lord. Anyway, the film. Okay. All right. Carrie was ranked 86th on the Empire's list of the 500 greatest movies of all time. Okay. All right. Okay, so, and let me just, let you know what I think is going on. All right? Right. So, this here. Where do I think that the origin, the source of this blood is? From the elevator in The Shining that's gushing. Torrance. Mm-hmm. Torrents of blood. Okay, where's the source of this blood? Or what is the source of this blood? I think this is the source of the blood. Okay? Poor Carrie. Okay? Poor Carrie. Um, I, I am sticking to my hypothesis that I stated in this video. Why does Stephen King hate The Shining? I think he hates The Shining because this is how I feel. This is my opinion. I believe that Stanley Kubrick was just sickened, disgusted by Stephen King and his behavior and whatever. And Stanley Kubrick knew more about this man than any of us ever will. And he knew that he probably either didn't write his novels, or he only, his contribution to the novels that bear his name was scant. And he knew that, and maybe that just made him wretch, kind of like it makes me. And he, Stanley said, you know what, let me do something about this. Let me take this idiot down a peg. And he got to work making The Shining, and he said, let me expose this man within the character played by Jack Nicholson, Jack Torrance. Jack Nicholson is named Jack, and so is the character in the movie Jack Torrance. So Stanley is drawing your eye to, like, the actor playing the character having the same first name as the character. And I think he's kind of emphasizing that, and picked Jack Nicholson to play Jack Torrance and Danny Lloyd to play Danny Torrance. Okay. To sort of keep reminding you that one is related to the other in name, and he's trying to sort of remind you that the character you're seeing in the movie, and or if you're reading the novel, is based on Stephen King himself. Whoever wrote it doesn't matter, but Stephen King is, autobiographical, that he didn't know. He didn't know, allegedly, this idiot is saying that he didn't know he was writing about himself when he was writing about himself, when he was writing The Shining. Really? Okay, so Stanley Kubrick said, okay, let me fix his little red wagon. Pun intended, red wagon. So when Jerry wrote, I always thought that the images of a bloody elevator could make a cool ad for tampons or menstrual pads, I think you're right. I really do. I really do. Okay. I mean, I have to develop this a little more. I think we've presented a strong possibility. Basically it's said in some places flat out that Stanley Kubrick was inspired by other movies. The radiators all over the Overlook Hotel, even in this shot, are from Eraserhead. Okay, they're Eraserhead. And Sissy Spacek is also from Eraserhead. Indirectly, her husband was both in the movie as an actor and helped finance the movie along with Sissy Spacek, and she was in Carrie. This was she's famous for this movie to this day, and that with Carrie, the emphasis on blood is very strong. Okay, and this, as I also once again, is it in this video? I think it's in this video, the last one. I showed you that this is not in the book. It's not in the book. It's just not. Go ahead and watch the video again, or click on the links in the description where I get my information, right? It's not in the book. This is not in the book. The maze is not in the book. The all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. That's not in the book. No. So, if this blood is not in the book. Why is it here? Why is it here? I think, again, this is another way for Stanley Kubrick to, like, again, put Stephen King in his place. And it worked. Like I said, like, Stephen King is still recovering. This is like Stanley Kubrick. The Shining is Stanley Kubrick's, like, version of, like, what do we call it nowadays? A diss track? I really think that's what he's doing. I really do. Just look at this. This doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't seem to be connected to any other part of the story in the movie. The Shining, this blood coming from this elevator, and I'm having you watch this over and over again in this .gif for a reason. Like, this is not something that drives the plot of the movie. It's just there. We see it a couple of times, but it doesn't seem to have any effect on anything. It's just there to look horrifying, and or to possibly make you remember this. It, blood very prominently featured. This is not real blood, it's fake blood. But then again, so is this. Okay, so this fake blood is very prominently featured in the first movie ever made based on a Stephen King book. Let's look at all this blood. Okay, this blood is part of the story in the movie, and it's this horrible prank that these awful kids in the story play on Sissy Spacek's character, Carrie. But here, it has no reason to be here. Other than to very rightfully insult Stephen King, and to make us maybe possibly remember, again, the movie and or the book, The Haunting of Hill House, the Eleanor character, in relation to the Wendy character, and what have you. Okay? I don't know, y'all. I don't know what y'all all think. Okay, so the blood is from the Carrie movie. The radiator's from Eraserhead. I need to work on this a little more. Because now, what do I want to know now? I want to know, like, the origin of these plaid chairs. That's what I'm going to be keeping my eye out for in the future. I think I've solved this. Personally, I do believe that I have solved, or that I have located the source of the blood from the bloody elevator in The Shining. I think this is the source of the blood. And again, I've covered this in other videos. I think, this elevator has two doors, one on the left, one on the right. I think this door over here represents Wendy, because it's the one opening. It's the one where the blood is coming from. And this door on... did I say the right? No, this door on the left is Wendy, and this door on the right is Jack, because it's closed. It's red, but it's closed. And again, the color red is extremely important in The Shining. As somebody said in one of the comments, like, yeah, the word Colorado in Spanish means red. I think it's like a specific kind of red, but it's a red. Okay. We're getting somewhere. I think I've gotten somewhere. This is because Stanley, not Stanley, no, Stephen King really despises this movie for a reason, and I think those reasons are personal. Something about the way Stanley Kubrick did this, and the imagery and the symbolism and everything that he chose. Some parts of it are a direct slap in the face. A direct slap in the face to Stephen King. And, like, he knew it. He realized it at the time. And that's why he was, like, all up in his feelings. And he continues to be so to this day. Okay? To this day. He's not letting it go. I said his last words are going to be Stanley. Stanley Kubrick. That This is how I feel. Now, you all, I don't know if I did anything with this video. I wanted to get this out there. Tankard already knows about it. I already discussed this with Tankard, so he knows. Okay? He knows. What do y'all think? Let me know. Again, the source of this is this. This is how I feel right now. And this is a cruel prank. This blood is part of a cruel prank in this movie. Hold on, let me find the movie Wikipedia again. Is this the movie? No, this is the novel. This is the movie. Okay, this is the novel. Wait. Let me look at the novel. Hold on. The first period. Okay. Okay. Carrie remembers. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. This is it. This is what I'm looking for. The prom initially goes well for Carrie. Tommy's friends are welcoming, and Tommy finds he is attracted to Carrie as a friend. Chris successfully rigs the election, and Carrie and Tommy are elected prom queen and king. However, at the moment of the coronation, Chris, from outside, dumps the pig blood onto Carrie and Tommy's heads. Tommy is knocked unconscious by one of the buckets and dies. Oh, that's terrible. The sight of Carrie drenched in blood invokes laughter from the audience. Carrie leaves the building, humiliated. Outside, Carrie remembers her telekinesis and decides to enact vengeance on her tormentors. Using her powers, she seals the gym, activates the sprinkler system, inadvertently electrocuting many of her classmates, and causes a fire that eventually ignites the school's fuel tanks, destroying the building in a massive explosion. Only a few lucky staff and students escape. Carrie, overwhelmed by rage, thwarts any incoming effort to fight the fire by opening the hydrants within the school's vicinity, then destroys gas stations and cuts power lines on her way home. My goodness. She unleashes her telekinetic powers on the town, destroying several buildings and killing hundreds of people. As she does this, she broadcasts a telepathic message showing the townspeople that the carnage was caused by her. Okay, listen. This story is a little too much. Just this paragraph. I mean, this is a little too much. But we know who wrote it. Well, actually, no, we don't. We think we know who wrote it. That might not be the case. But this was made into a movie. Again, I think this was probably foisted upon Brian De Palma the same way that I think that The Shining was foisted upon Stephen. Okay? I really do. Not Stephen, Stanley. Oh, this is getting confusing. I am so sorry. So Stanley Kubrick, had no choice. And this, I mean, it's featured here in this article too, about like his thoughts about Stephen King's writing. Okay. This is really quite something. Right? Really, really, really quite something. And here's Stanley with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And where are they? Oh yeah, this is the one of the scenes in the Colorado Lounge. And yes, I'm still working on part 15? Yeah. I'll get to it. I promise you I'll get to it. But again, hopefully next week. I barely did this tonight. And this is my second try making this video, by the way. First try, a disaster. But I said no, I want to make this one tonight, and I'm going to make it. Here I am. Okay, here I am. The thing is, if I'm right, which I know I might not be, Okay, but if I'm right about the source of this being this, whew, like what does this mean? If I'm right about this, if I'm right that this comes from here, okay, like what does this mean? Eh, Oof, this is the uncertainty is the most difficult part. Um, mm, I don't know. I don't know what to think of this. I really don't know what to think of this. Even, I mean, I hope I'm right because, like, if I'm right, that would be great. But if I'm not, like, what does that mean? I mean, but I'm sorry, if I am right, like, what does that mean? Is this whole movie just a diss track? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Again, I think again, he was planning on doing this way before. Uh, he was choosing, the carpeting outside of room 237 and the design of this, building that we see in the movie and the wardrobe and probably the actors too and all of the people that helped him, assistant directors or whoever else. Like he probably chose all those people like well in advance and all the stuff well in advance of beginning to film the movie and well in advance of having, again, I think, Stephen King's novel foisted upon him. Okay? You guys let me know in the comments. I have taken up enough of your time. Um, Again, this is in large part my intuition, my gut telling me that, but I cannot ignore the possibility that this is the source of this. I'm still going to keep working on it. I'm going to tell you. Where's the thing? Colorado Lounge. Um. Oh yeah, I'm gonna in part 15. We're gonna finally cover the Colorado Lounge. After I do that, I can tell you the big secret, like the big one, the really big one. Ooh, much bigger than this. Much bigger than this. So like you're gonna have to just watch it when I finally make it, you know. And that's that. So you guys, thank you once again so much. Returning viewers, thank you for returning. New viewers, thank you for being new. Subscribers, all of you, thank you for subscribing. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Help me get finally monetized just by liking and sharing and, and interacting. Like, I love your comments. I love just the very idea that we might, like, finally figure this thing out together. Yep. That, oh, there she is again. Okay. Um, that makes me, that gives me, like, some kind of happiness. I don't know why. But, so until you guys, until next time, hopefully I'll make part 15 next time. I don't know. It's not going to be for a couple of days at least, but, oof. Until next time, yo. Until the next time when I find a yet another reason to talk at you in one of these videos, I'm going to go ahead and bid you bye-bye. So, oh no. So, bye-bye, everybody.